morning. I'm perfect. Thank you, Shelley. I'm Kim Rayner from All About Spirit, Life, Health, and Money Coaching. And I get to present today, and I want to talk about debt and the silent strain that it takes on our life. And you guys know me in HBBA as a debt solution strategist, and that's one small part of the work that I do. I really am the founder of a life, health, and money coaching business called All About Spirit. I've been a life, health, or money coach in one way or another for more than 26 years. I am a multi-generational serial entrepreneur, which is a title that I actually made up. Multi-generational, my grandfather, my dad, my mom, my sister, and my son all have owned their own businesses or currently own their own businesses. I've been a real estate investor since 1977, so I don't know if that's actually 46 years or not anymore. And I've been a private lender for 19 years for people who were looking to get into housing and weren't able to navigate that through financial institutions for whatever reason. So, as I talk about finances and looking at your life from 50,000 feet, I use something that I call the spices of life. And those are spiritual components, physical components, income, or intuition, depending on what we're talking about, how we navigate change, emotions, and the way we relate socially to things. So I coach in a lot of different things besides just money. But you know me in the money world. I actually have a coaching program that's called The Spirituality of Money because there is a thread that flows through our finances that really operates consistently, exactly with what Shelley was talking about, consistently with our philosophy and our views on life. So when I think about the spices of life at 50,000 feet when it comes to money, spiritually, if we are in debt or we're struggling financially, it discourages generosity. And there's a spiritual principle that says what you give out, you get back, and you usually get it back tenfold. So if you're going through life with closed fists, you are not getting the benefit of prosperity being returned. Physically, it takes its impact on stress. We know that debt decreases sleep quality. We know that it impairs people's ability to concentrate. When it comes to income, if our income is depleted or if we don't feel like we have enough money to make it through the end of the month, we stop investing in ourselves, we stop investing in the world financially, we stop navigating those things intuitively, we stop listening to our gut, we stop paying attention to that small still voice in us. We might have finances that change, right? Our debt world changes, and if we're resistant to change, we will struggle with the process of rebuilding or reevaluating how we are living in the world. We might embrace that change and then we're able to more easily move with the flow. Emotionally, there actually is a syndrome called the debt stress syndrome. It manifests as low self esteem and impaired cognitive function. And we don't really think about the impact that debt stress has on us. And socially, we define ourselves socially. That whole keep up with the Joneses world is real. And if we allow society to define who we are, to define the kind of house we live in or the kind of car we drive, that has an impact on us. So these numbers are actually adults are stressed due to debt. 4% of the population say that they are never stressed. 9% say that they're hardly ever stressed. 32% say sometimes they're stressed. 39% say I am stressed a lot about money. And 16% of adults say they are always stressed about money. If you look at that, that means those top three categories, 87% of adults have some kind of stress around debt. So if you are an individual that is stressed around debt, you are not alone in the world. And I talk to a lot of people about money and finances and stuff like that. And they often say, oh, I'm good. I don't have any problems around that. It's because our ecosystem doesn't necessarily allow us to know that, or because we have so much shame around being in debt. We're embarrassed by it. We feel like we've done something wrong. And there are things societally that have set us up to not be successful in the way that we navigate our debt. I really do hope that you took the opportunity to go through that financial survey And if you didn't, take the time to do it now, because as we go through the presentation, there'll be some slides that I'm going to invite you to do screen prints of, because there's some solutions in those different categories. But when we look at our stress, right? Physical, emotional, social indicators that people are in stress, right? 60% of those people have relationship problems. If you are fighting with your partner about how to navigate your money, there's you at the table, there's your partner at the table, and then there's the people who educated you at the table. 48% have sleep problems, 40% have increased anxiety, 38% have a diminished social life, sometimes because they financially can't afford to do things, or sometimes because it triggers back to that shame piece. And 30% actually get tripped into depression because of their financial debt. And financial stress can actually be a gateway for people to accumulate more debt. If you are an emotional shopper, you use shopping as a way to self regulate your nervous system, which 29% of the population is very likely to accumulate more debt because they're in debt and stressed about it. 43.3% say, yep, they're probably likely to, somewhat likely to do that. And the rest I feel like, no, I'm okay. I don't stress shop. But those are big numbers, right? That's like 62% of the population is going to accumulate more debt because they're already in debt. So debt influences in a lot of different ways. 56% of the population feels guilty about spending money. That means you head to the grocery store, you had to go buy clothes, buy school supplies for the kids, what about tires for your car, whatever those things are, right? We feel guilty about spending money. 53.3% is overwhelmed when they spend money. So every time you go to do something that's going to cost you something, if you're in that category, that sets that stress response higher. 34.7% choose less expensive alternatives. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but when you're choosing less expensive alternatives in things like your food or your supplementation or physical exercise or the things that you do that are actually going to help your body, then that becomes a problem. 29.5% of the population being in debt pushes them to save more. That is awesome. But right behind that, 28.3%, it triggers them to spend more money. So there's this cycle that we go through that always keeps us stressed when we are in debt. So 66% of the population consider bankruptcy as the way to solve their debt problem, when in reality, for most people, $300 a month extra would remove bankruptcy as a need for them. That is not very much money, and that's huge. 66%. 38% figure that they're going to be debt free in 5 years. And when you look at those people, 47% of the population hasn't been debt free in 2008 since 2018. So those numbers don't work. That 38% is unrealistic expectations about where they're going to go. Not necessarily because of their choices, but oftentimes because of the way debt is structured and the way we are taught to navigate it. Then we have the generational impact of debt on our lives. If you look at families, right, there's generations who have been in similar financial situations. What did your parents say about people who had money? Did they say people who have money are greedy, right? If your parents talked to you that way, then you have a glass ceiling. If your family's not going to love you because you have a lot of money, that is going to be an emotional set point for you. People, what did they say about people who didn't have money? Are those people lazy? Do you have judgment around that? What are their beliefs? Were they similar to each other or were they in opposition to each other? Were the messages spoken out loud to you? Did they even talk to you about money? Or is whatever you got just the bits and pieces that you maybe heard around the table? Or was it the feeling, that emotional energy in your house around debt? So if people took a look at you, if a small child was watching you, what would they think about how you relate to money today? What would their thoughts be? And the reason I ask you, especially if you're a parent, they're watching you, they are paying attention. Your actions, your thoughts, your beliefs around money are being observed, and they are going to become the role model for your kids unless we do something to interrupt that process. And we do that through financial education. We do that through having conversations by removing the shame attached to being in debt. So this is the part where I'm going to invite you, if you to take screenshots. If you did the survey and you scored in the spending part where it's like, oh, I'm a little high in that area, this would be the screen you want to take a screenshot of, because some of the solutions are in here. A good rule of thumb is to spend 30% or less of your budget on lifestyle spending. I'm not going to go through all of these items, which is why I take a screenshot. The other thing I would say is shop alone. Don't go shopping with your girlfriends or your boyfriends if you have problems with spending. The next item on this debt in the survey was debt. That was the next category. If you were high in that category, the thing that I want to point out on here is a couple of them. One of them is don't co-sign other people's loans. It is never a good plan. And don't continuously upgrade your cell phone on your phone bill if you don't need to. And the last thing I want to say about this one is ditch the overdraft protection on your bank accounts. All that is an incentive for you to spend more than you actually have available. If management was your issue, there's a list of things you can do. The first one that I would talk about is to get a financial calendar so you really know what's going on in your life, and cancel auto pay. We have people that I talk to who are on auto pay for things that they have not used in years, in some cases in decades, and they're always surprised to find that out. On the survey, if saving for your future was an issue for you, I would really tap into what Shelley talked about in Nate's Nuggets. Create yourself a vision board. The things that we think about and we put out into the future, that literally becomes our reality. The next thing that I would say on this screen is keep your extra money out of your checking account, put it into a savings account. And when you get a raise at work, raise your retirement savings deposits proportionately. If risk management was your issue, the thing that I'm going to talk about on this slide, and again, take screen prints, know the 5 kinds of emergencies for finances. And these really are the 5. It is job loss, it's medical stress, auto breakdowns, home emergencies like a furnace, a hot water heater, a leaky roof, something like that, and travel to a funeral. If it doesn't fall into one of those categories, it really isn't a financial crisis or emergency. And if you don't know how to separate that, you really do need to talk to somebody about that process. If legacy and creating a vision for people is the thing that you scored low on, you want to create bite-sized goals for yourself. Pay attention to the investments and the banking fees and stuff that you have. Balance your portfolio and have good people in your pocket who can help you with that process. If the overall satisfaction part of the survey was something that you didn't have a higher score in that you'd like, determine how much for you is enough. Not what society says, but how much for you. Hire a coach to help you navigate through the process and savor the things that you've got. And then if partnerships were the issue, I would absolutely point out the need to share financial responsibility. And then if you have one of you that's a spender and one of you that's a saver, have your spender track the spending. It's going to give them a realistic idea of what's happening in your world. Otherwise, they don't get to see a clear picture. The last thing that that I want to mention, or actually second to last thing, I asked to present today because we are not taught financial literacy in our world. We are taught, in most cases, about money and financing and saving and planning for the future by the people who make money off of us. And that's not a good solution for the individual. If you are we're definitely nowhere on the planet are we taught the spiritual principles of money unless you have a church that may follow those kind of principles. The holiday reality is getting ready to set in. If you haven't gotten your bank statement for Christmas shopping, it's probably on its way. And things in your life are not going to change on their own. If you always do what you have always done, you will always get what you have always gotten. And I can promise you that you are not alone in what's going on in your life, or you may know people who are not alone. So if this brought up more questions for you than answers, then I would say good to that. Some next steps for you would be to really schedule well, do the stress survey if you haven't, and then ask me for these slides. I'll get them to you. And then let's schedule a private time to talk about the stress survey. If you are having problems having conversations with your partner, let's get a neutral party into the conversation at the table. And remember, there's you, there's your partner, there's their parents, and there's your parents. So all 6 of you are at the table. Only 2 of you are visible. Ask me to come and speak at your next event. I would be happy to do that. And come and take a look at what Dead Shredder can do for you. It will, if nothing else, give you the opportunity to look at your finances in a different way. Thank you for allowing me to share today. And I am going to stop sharing if I can. I lost my